It's me, your Void, and I finally got my haircut. Does this count as a freak out? No, I did crash out the last couple of weeks about my hair, and literally yesterday I was like, fuck it, and just cut it all off. This is the first time I ever have like a real buzz cut, and I have to say I like it. So this is what we're working with. But we're not here to talk about my hair, we are here to freak out together. It's the middle of the year, which means we have to freak out about books. And same procedure as last year, same procedure as every year, James. We are going down the questionnaire of the Midyear Freakout Book Tag. I did kind of Frankenstein it together to fit my kind of reading opinions, and I have decidedly forgotten which versions I pulled from, so I proudly declare this to be my version, but credit to all the people who came before me, because I did not come up with any of these on my own. I just did a pick and mix situation. So I have 18 different questions for you to answer, or like I have these questions and I have to answer them, and you are going to watch me ask and answer those questions, and let's freak out together, shall we? The first question is, how has your reading year been so far? And oh my god, this is the best reading year of my entire existence. I hit my reading goal of 52 books. If you don't know, I set the same reading goal every year. 52 books, 1 book a week. That is what I do. I usually don't increase that. I say usually because this year I hit 52 in May. At the beginning of May, I had already read 52 books, which is ridiculous. Usually it takes me until the second round of Aurelium, like late August, sometime in September, to finish out this yearly reading goal. I did it in half that time. Wow. So back to the usually part. I usually don't increase my reading goal from 52 books a year because I just like seeing the number compared, like 52 and this is what you actually read. I increased my reading goal to 100 books this year, and yes, that number is incredibly terrifying, even though I just hit 70 books yesterday. It's only the end of June, the beginning of July. So yeah, my reading's been going great. Question number 2 is, what is the best book you have read so far? Now, despite the immense quantity of books that I have read, and the quality is still good. There are so many 4 and 4.5 stars. I never had this many 4 and 4.5 stars, but 5 stars are kind of elusive this year. I only had 4 so far. 4 5 stars. Something's iffy about this. Out of these 5 stars, 1 book does not count, in my opinion, because I reread it, and I don't count rereads for like the best book of the year so far. So we go with A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I read this in February, where I read only pink books and I only read romances. I picked this up on a whim, and then I picked it up to read it, and this thing kicked off my basic bitch era, which I'm still in this year. First and foremost, it's a romance. Second of all, it's a Regency romance. I actually watched Bridgerton because of this. In this one, we follow Viola, and Viola is a trans woman, and she faked her own death when she was in the war, so she could live as her authentic self instead of being who she was before. So she's now a, not lady in waiting, but she's like just attending her sister-in-law, who then took her in, and her brother, they took her in, and she's now basically like working for them, but also living with them. It's a whole kerfuffle. And in this book, she gets a message that tells her that her ex-best friend has the depresso, big time. And her sister-in-law is like, maybe you should help him, like you were always this close. And she's like, but like he doesn't know who I am. Eventually she goes there, they meet up, and she realizes that her life changed dramatically after this incident in the war, and his life changed dramatically as well. And then they kind of help each other, and they find to each other, and then they fall in love, and everything is cool, and everything is cute, and everything is I usually don't do that. I don't usually go like, this is a 6 star. This is a 6-star book. This is a 6-star book for me. I will never not gush about this book. It was so good that I actually thought about rereading it right after finishing the book. The only thing that really stopped me was the fact that I wasn't at home and I didn't have the book with me. Best book of the year so far. Speaking of rereads, the next question is, what is the best reread of your year so far? I have reread a total of 5 books. And the best one was my all-time favorite, Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. Did I plan on rereading this? No, I did not plan to reread this. I actually planned planned on reading the last book in the second trilogy for Adventure Marathon. But then Kirsty from K-Beth Bookish said she's reading Promise of Blood, and I was like, and then I just picked it up and started rereading it. This is my favorite reread of the year, and probably will not be beaten in the rest of the year. This is Promise of Blood. It's very hard to beat this one, in my opinion. Like, in my general opinion. Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan! Next up is the question about the best manga / comic / graphic novel I have read this year. I have read 15 mangas, comics, graphic novels so far this year, and the best one, by far, I have to say, is House of Slaughter Volume 2, Scarlet. This one is giving me the best of both worlds from the Slaughterverse, which is a universe in which children can imagine monsters into existence if they just believe hard enough, and then you have these monster hunters who are trained since childhood to hunt down and kill these monsters, because grown-ups cannot see them if they haven't been trained in one of these houses. In this one we follow Edwin, and he is sent to a summer camp where there have been signs and sightings of a thing that might be a monster, so he's sent there to investigate it, and shit happens. The other half, the other world that is thrown into here is giving Bloodborne. If you know me, you know that I am deeply, deeply, deeply in love with everything that is connected to Bloodborne, so having two of my favorite things in terms of monster and eldritch horror come together in this one volume made it peak for me. I love everything about the Slaughterverse. I need to get my grabby hands on more of House of Slaughter, the Book of Butcher, and Something's Killing the Children, the whole thing. I need the whole thing. Next question is, what was the best sequel so far this year? And for this one I have to kind of stretch it. It's one of those romances where every book is its own dynamic and story and whatnot, but it's technically the same universe. And for that one I go with City of Carnal Delight by Chloe Parker, which is a occult gothic romance novel set in a 1920s London, where our main character, Jacinda, is investigating a haunting in Whitechapel where the Jack the Ripper murders were, and people are now scared of the area where it all happened because there are violent ghosts apparently. And she is joined in her endeavor by a medium from America, a fire starter, he's basically like a pyromancer, he can fire shit, from Spain, and a war veteran who had half his face blown off and replaced with spirit glass, so he can now see ghosts and like demons and fae and shit, like he can see the other world in our world. They team up and they try to fight basically Jack the Ripper in Whitechapel, like 30 years after he's done. And Jacinda herself was an exorcist, and due to all of the stress amongst these people and the relationships they kind of have with each other, they end up in a relationship. All four of them. And I was so here for it. The vibes are immaculate. This, if you need an example of a gothic setting with atmosphere that just captures you, read City of Carnal Delight. Also, read the first book in her thrall, which is centered around basically Dracula. Read this. Chloe Parker writes amazing gothic horror. Read it. Question number 6 is, what is a new release that you really want to read? And is there any other answer than Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by Ree Schwab? No, there isn't. This arrived a couple of days ago, and I knew it was coming. I knew it was in that package. I did not expect any other packages that day, that week actually. So I knew what I had in my hand the second the postman handed it to me, and I immediately thought, what if I abandon the rest of my TBR and just read this? All I know about this is toxic lesbian vampires, and Ree Schwab themselves has compared this to the vampire Lestat meets Eddie, The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. I loved The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. I love the show Interview with a Vampire, and Ree Schwab specifically said the show is also immaculate compared to this. And Lestat is one of my favorite characters. He's my toxic icon. So having both of these things together in a book by one of my favorite authors, yes. I don't care what the plot is. It has vampires. Vampires. It is queer. Queer! It is by V.E. Schwab, and it emulates two of my most favorite things on this planet. I am so here for it. I will read this before the end of the year. Promise. And I say that as someone who doesn't do end of the year TBRs. Speaking of new releases, the 7th question is, what is a new release in the next half of the year that you are excited for? And for that I have to go with Andrew Joseph White's You Weren't Meant to Be Human, because wow, I just finished reading my third Andrew Joseph White, The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. And the way this man writes horror and body horror is just, it's chef's kiss. There is just something so precisely good about this that I can't wait for his first adult horror book. And in You Weren't Meant to Be Human, we follow a trans guy who is also mute. He decides to be mute. He's not nonverbal. He decides to just not talk. And I think he's like kidnapped by aliens, or maybe something like that. But these aliens then impregnate him, and he's like, he has to deal with all of that, and he's also autistic and all of that. Like, it's going to be a clusterfuck of things. But given what I know about the writing of Andrew Joseph White, it's going to be great. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be precisely uncomfortable, and it's going to be fucking great. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And this book releases on September 9th, if I have that right in my brainsicles, meaning I don't have to wait that long to get it. Yeah! Question number 8 asks, what is the worst book I have read so far this year? And that is by far The Graveyard Shift by David W. Adams, which is a thankfully short novella that is kind of a prequel of another thing they wrote. I don't even want to talk about it. It was just a whole lot of nothing. I'm still salty about the fact that this novella starts out with an author's note explaining to you that the author just thought that they had to explain a certain character in more detail, and that they noticed they don't have too many characters of color in their work, which is why they needed to expand on the one character of color they had. It's just such an iffy vibe to start a novella off with. And they put the author's note in the front as well. Like, if that is your reasoning, put it in the back at least, so that people can read it without having that specific kind of knowledge. But yeah, even without that knowledge, it wasn't solid. It was a lot of telling, a lot of nonsense going back and forth. There was no real threat, despite this literally being a story about a guy having to fight off shark teeth monster things in the desert. There was a Deus Ex Machina in there. There was time travel in there. Like, all whole ass clusterfuck, and it didn't go anywhere. I was so glad when it was over. From the worst book to the biggest disappointment, Scythe and Sparrow by Brynn Weaver. This is, up until now, the biggest disappointment of the year, because I loved Butcher and Blackbird, and I enjoyed my time with Leather and Lark, so I thought book 3 is going to be cool as well, and then it was just an incredible letdown, because all of the interesting bits and pieces were already told in the previous 2 books. If you don't know, in this one we follow the third Kane brother. He is a doctor, and he at one point had a bad breakup, so he ran away to Nebraska to be a doctor out in the countryside. And then he meets this woman, her name is Rose, and she had an accident when she tried to kill someone, and she broke her leg, and he fixed it for her. And she has nowhere else to go because she works for a circus, so he's like, you can hang around at my place. The interesting bits of this book are all of the crossovers when his brothers from Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark come over, because they had issues. Problem being, all these interesting bits already happened in the other books, so I already know what happened, and everything in between, like the filler between these moments, is just boring. This is supposed to be a serial killer romance, and I didn't realize that Sparrow is actually a serial killer all the way up until the end, so it was pretty much a nothing burger for me. And because I was so hyped from the first 2 books, this was the biggest disappointment I had so far this year, because I was really excited to read this, and it was incredibly boring. The opposite of that, what is the biggest surprise you had this year? And with this one I have to go with Red, Right, and Royal Blue by Casey McKinston. Why is this the biggest surprise of my year? Well, remember how I said that I entered my basic bitch era in February when I read A Lady for a Duke? After I read that book, I was so into reading romances. I needed to pick up another one, specifically with an audiobook, because as I mentioned, I was going on a trip, so I needed to kind of kill some time, a lot of time. So I wanted something with an audiobook that is easy to digest. And I was like, hey, I enjoy Regency romance now. What if I tried contemporary romance? I didn't want to go too far out of my window, so I was like, okay, cool, let's make it queer at least. You know, at least some familiarity here. And I picked up this book, and I fell in love. up. And Red, White, and Royal Blue actually became my second 5-star read of the year. So again, I'm in my basic bitch era, and this one is definitely one of the reasons for it. I did watch the movie. The movie's shit. Like, it's not a bad movie, but compared to the book, this is definitely one of those instances where the book is better, simply because it has time to breathe. The pacing in the movie is just all over the place. Not like that. But yeah, contemporary romance. Wow, this is the start of an era. And yes, I am now diving into contemporary romance. What has my life become? Question number 11 asks, who is my new favorite author that I found this year? And I have to go with Martha Wells, because this year I discovered the Murderbot Diaries, and oh my god, I am deeply in love with the Murderbot Diaries. I just finished book number 6? No, I just finished book number 5, the first like full-length novel in the Murderbot Diaries. I enjoyed my time with it. Wow. And I'm also watching the TV show. Also, wow. Yes. Martha Wells, yes. I kneel down in front of you. Thank you for writing the Murderbot Diaries. It is so good. I know she has written a fantasy thing called The Witch King. I think it's called The Witch King. And I'm very interested in seeing where this woman can take her world building and her characters if we change the genre a bit. Yes. Question number 12 was kind of hard to answer for me this year. The question itself is, who's your new fictional crush? When I was planning this video, I was looking back at what I read so far and I was like, so I actually needed to do some thinking on this, and I came up with 2 this time around. The first one being the medium in City of Carnal Delight by Chloe Parker. His name is Harry Ransom, and yes, he is definitely a stand-in for Harry Houdini, because yeah, he is a showman from America with an excessive lifestyle, and his name is Harry, and he's very much into the paranormal. True, Harry Houdini tried to disprove the existence of ghosts, but in this world ghosts exist, so we just take stage magician and escape artist and turn it into actual medium. It is the same fucking person. Weird side note, if you watch the ITV show Houdini and Doyle, you know exactly what kind of character Harry Ransom is. And I have to say, even though he comes across as an asshole in the beginning, he has some emotional depth to him that I just, yes. He's one of those characters who's projecting this era of, yeah, I don't care, this aloof, I know what I'm doing kind of air around him, but he's hiding a scared little boy inside himself. And rightfully so. The things that happen to him in this book, all of his fears come true, and I'm so here for it. Like, yes, I love him. Also, his love-hate relationship with Raphael, the fire starter, power bottom. That's all I say. He's guaranteed he's a switch, but power bottom. Yes. And the other new fictional crush I have, he is, if I have Harry for the fun stuff, like just having fun with him, then Red from Get a Life Chloe Brown is the guy I want to come home to because he cooks for me and then we just cuddle on the couch. He's that kind of crush. He's the domestic kind of crush. He's an artist. He comes with a little traumatized background story, but he worked through it. He's also drinking his Respect Women juice, which is always good. He is just such a teddy bear. I love me. A good teddy bear. The dreaded question number 13 is one that I very rarely can really answer, this year being one of them. Because the question is, what book made you cry this year? I don't really cry at books, so I stretched that out to a deeply emotional reaction. Like, what book gave you a deep emotional reaction? And for that, I have to go with Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, or The Little Prince, for those of you who don't speak French. I don't speak French. I'm just very good at pronouncing words in French. I understand a bit of French. This is a children's classic about a little boy who fell out of the sky because he tried to find friends, and his own planet is just very small. You can see his own planet is very small, so he one day said, I want to find friends, but he left his biggest friend, a rose, all alone on the planet, and he traveled the not universe, but like the galaxy basically, until he crashes on Earth and he meets a pilot who's probably meant to be the author, and it's just a beautiful story about imagination and like not necessarily dreaming, but it's an exploration of childhood innocence and the imagination that can come from a children's mind, and how easy things can be explained and how dumb concepts of grown-ups are. It's such a nice look at the world and at people, and It's such a good read. And I read this because my mother, this is a favorite children's story, and we went to a theater performance that was put on by the theater group I'm part of, and she said I should read the book when we came home, so I did. And yes, the play itself moved me to tears almost, and the book did as well. It's just so good. It's such a good look at innocence and imagination of children. It's so good. Question number 14. Who is your new favorite character? And for that one, I had to think even harder than for my new fictional crush. I almost came up empty-handed because I can't even give you a reason why. I read a lot of things with ensemble casts, and none of them stuck out on their own, but the relationship and the dynamics I had with other characters is what made things great. So it was kind of hard to figure out someone. And then I remembered I started the Murderbot diary, so we are only in Murderbot's head, and I enjoy them so much because of who Murderbot is. So I have to say my new favorite character is probably Murderbot. You can't even call it humor, because I don't think Murderbot thinks it is funny. It's just very much saying what it thinks, or at least thinking what it thinks. And because we are constantly in Murderbot's head, it has all these snarky comments towards things. That's just Murderbot's character, but I think it is so hilariously funny. So yeah, my new favorite character is Murderbot from my new favorite author, Martha Wells. The next question is, what is my most beautiful purchase this year so far? And for that I had two options, and then I realized one option I just think is very pretty because of what I assume the story to be. So the cover itself isn't actually that imposing, it's just what I superimpose over it, I guess. So I went with the other option, which is Evocation by S.T. Gibson, which is just, it's shiny and it looks like a tarot card, and I love me a Hanged Man reference. It is the splotch of color with the red reaching for his chest. It's a very attractive cover. It is a very attractive cover. Look at this. It's so pretty. And the fact that I fell in love with S.T. Gibson's writing when I read Dowry of Blood only helps this book along, and it's also a poly romance, and if you know me, I love me a good poly romance, and it's occult, it's gothic, yes, I am very excited to start reading this, and it is so pretty! Look at it, it's so pretty! And the next book, Ascension, has a similar cover, but it's gold foiling. Hot. Question number 16 is, what is a book that made you happy? I always kind of struggle to interpret that. What does it mean when you say a book that makes you happy? Is it a book that makes you laugh? Is it a book that just makes you feel good? It's hard to quantify. This time around, I went with a book that I thought was very, very funny. Like, it made me laugh out loud. It almost made me snort laugh on the train that was packed with people. That was very weird. And that is Horror Date by Sebastian Fitzek, which is his third endeavor to write a comedy. If you know Sebastian Fitzek's work, you know this man writes hardcore thrillers that border on horror. This man does not write comedy. A couple of years ago, I was baffled when I saw a children's book with his name on it. Aren't you writing things where people die in horrible, horrible ways? And I was thinking the same thing when I saw this book. It specifically says, because Sebastian Fitzek is known for these hardcore thrillers, it specifically said, Horror Date, not a thriller, even though you meet a lot of psychos when dating. And it's like the whole thing, like the other two books in this series, it's not necessarily a series, it's like standalone books, but that's like the whole thing about these. Like, you have the title and then not a thriller, reasoning for why it could be a thriller. And I think that's brilliant marketing. I actually listened to this as an audiobook arc because NetGalley happens, and he is also, like, Sebastian Fitzek is reading his own introduction and his acknowledgements, and he kind of starts a dialogue with the guy who read the audiobook, which makes it even funnier. The whole book is just so dumb. The premise of Horror Date is that this guy, Julius, he made a dating app for people who know they don't have long to live. It's for the terminally ill, it's for the elderly, and it is very popular. And he had this idea to do that because his best friend dies. He was bitten by a tick and they didn't catch it early enough, so he's now basically end-stage organ failure. He is dying. So Julius made this app for his best friend, and his best friend connected with a lady who is a therapist, but but she also has a brain tumor. And she then started corresponding with the friend of the guy who made the app. Now, they are supposed to have their first in-person IRL date, but Julius's friend is like, I am so close to dying. I can barely get from my bed to the bathroom. I don't think she would like to see me that way because it would remind her of the fact that she's also dying, and that's not what he wanted her to feel. He wanted her to feel happy to be alive still. So he kind of blackmails Julius into going on this date for him. And he's like, okay, I guess I can do that, because his best friend's also pulling the I'm dying, this is my last wish card. So he's like, okay, cool, I go to this date, and then like it's just this first date, and then you never have to talk to her again. But shit keeps happening. First and foremost, he is not at all like his best friend, so he doesn't know what to talk about with her. Then a friend of his shows up with a t-shirt he made for his bachelor party because Julius is actually engaged. So he has to wiggle out of that, which leads to another lie, which then leads to another thing. And then she actually takes him home to like a weird fertility celebration of her dad, and he didn't anticipate that, and then the dad turns out to be the major investor of his firm. So there's a whole clusterfuck going on there. Literally, the plot is this guy goes on a date with someone else because his best friend can't, and then shit keeps happening. That is the best description I can give you, and it is so hilariously funny. Caveat with that is it's published in German by a man from Germany, and this audiobook is also in German. Sebastian Fitzek is big enough that some of his works have been translated into English. I am not aware of any English translation of the Not a Thriller books so far, so you might not be able to read it at all or anytime soon if you don't speak German. But quite honestly, that is not my problem, that's a you problem. The penultimate question, I always wanted to use that word. Question number 17 is, what books do you need to read before the year is over? And for that I have a small-ish selection of books, because you know me, I like to finish books I started throughout the year in December, but I also am very bad at finishing series, and I have a couple of books here that would actually finish out a series for me if I could get my ass up and pick these books up. I just never do. So let's go through them real quick. We have, first and foremost, The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson, which is a fantasy romance that is, in my opinion, hitting the perfect balance between fantasy and romance. This is book 3 in the Ramblin' Chronicles trilogy, in which we follow a princess who doesn't want a princess anymore. She runs away on the day of her wedding and tries to live a normal life, but the prince she was supposed to marry is trying to find her because he's like, why did she run away? Why would she run away from an arranged marriage, right? And an enemy nation is also sending an assassin after her who is supposed to kill her so that they can blame each other and war and blah. This is the conclusion after what happened in book 2, which is, wow, it went places. Book 2 went places. Now, this book looks deceivingly small. This is very thin paper. This is very floppy paper, if you can tell. Like, I love this series simply because it is floppy as all hell. This is almost 700 pages, so don't get fooled by the fact that it's kind of thin looking. This is almost 700 pages. But I enjoyed book 1 and 2. I just didn't get around to pick up book 3 because I'm a lazy bitch and 700 pages do intimidate me, even though I have a lot of books of that size. So that is on my agenda for this year, hopefully. All of these books, by the way, I'm not promising that I'm reading them. I'm not promising anything. I just say they are on higher up on the priority list because they would mean I finish out a series. Do not use my words against me. The next one that would finish out a series is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick, which would close out the Shepherd King duology for me. In this world, we have a city? I think it's a city. It's a city or a country that is shrouded in perpetual fog, and you forget who you are in that fog, and they have a bunch of cards, basically like tarot cards, and these cards can bestow magic upon the person who is carrying them around, and to lift this fog, you need to collect the whole deck and put them all together, but there's one card that has been missing since the cards were made, and we are now trying to find that. Problem being, our main character has touched one of the cards that is one of the most dangerous cards, and has now a monster in her head that is telling her keeping things from her, and sometimes it takes over for her and does very brutal, very violent things. There's also a romance going on, which I heard a lot of people criticize the romance in this, and I'm like, like, it exists. I am more interested in the rest of the plot and less in the romance, but I don't think it was too heavy-handed on the romance in book 1, so it's fine. It's fine. The setting and atmosphere makes up for the weird romance. So I really want to finish out this one to finish out a duology. The next book I have that would also finish out a series for me is another one of those romance series where every book follows another couple, and this one is Saint by Sierra Simone. In this one we follow the third brother of a family that has some religious trauma going on, and they all deal with it in their own way. And in this one we follow Aiden, and Aiden is running away from his responsibilities and is basically on a path to become something that has to do with religion. He chose God. It just says that he chose God. So he's doing so. I think he wants to be a missionary or something. I don't know. Problem being, Aiden is bisexual, and he had a little hookup with the best friend of his brother, and that brother is now married to that best friend's little sister. It's a whole thing. Anyway, they hooked up. That guy, his hookup, is not ready to let him go yet, so he is traveling after him, and they kind of chase each other down until they fall in love, I guess. And I predict a lot of trauma, religious trauma, and I ate up priest, I ate up sinner. I am pretty sure I'm going to eat up saint even more, because now it's not just Sierra Simone's writing and the whole Catholic guilt situation, it's also gay now, so yes, I am ready. I have seen people being emotionally devastated by this one specifically. I am interested! Final question in this mid-year freakout tag is, what is your favorite adaptation from book 2, TV, movie, video game, whatever? And you might have guessed it, it's the Murderbot show. Apple TV started to adopt the first Murderbot diary with Alexander Skarsgård as the Murderbot. It is so funny! Is it 100% book accurate? No, but it's close enough and I enjoy it. It's so funny. And Alexander Skarsgård does a hell of a job to portray the stoic face of Murderbot while still showing the absolute anxiety Murderbot has whenever it has to interact with humans. That whole episode, I think it was episode 2, that was all about eye contact. Like, I was literally hearing in my brain the sound prolonged eye contact, and you could just see the absolute panic in Alexander Skarsgård's face without moving an inch. It was amazing. I love that show, and I'm hyping that one up. Especially now that Amazon decided to cancel the best fantasy television we have with Wheel of Time. I'm incredibly salty about that. I'm incredibly salty about that. Season 3 was so good. I just can't say that it's the best adaptation I've seen all year, because I never read the Wheel of Time books. But it was so good. Shame on you, Amazon. Shame on you. Anyway, Murderbot. I love the show. I love the books. I am now a Murderbot stan, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Murderbot is great. The show is great. Everyone should read it. Everyone should watch it. And that's it. That is all I have for you in terms of freaking out during the middle of the year. 18 questions asked, 18 answers delivered, and yeah. If you made it this far into the video, let me know what your favorite book of the year has been so far, and if you don't have anything to say, leave a book stack emoji in the comments down below, and I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye!